Should Secretary Hegseth, Admiral Bradley, or others be punished?
Very soon we're going to start doing it on land, too, because we know every route, we know every house.
If Trump were to order an attack on land, that would be an act of war.
She shouldn't be allowed to be a congresswoman. She should be thrown the hell out of our country.
In this video, you'll get to see the president saying exactly what the American people are thinking about the Somalia community, especially the level of fraud. He also confirmed airstrikes on land in the country of Venezuela is imminent and had some harsh words for Ilhan Omar. If you guys find value throughout this video, make sure you like this video, share this video, leave a comment down below, and don't forget to subscribe. Let's start here.
It's found that survivors were actually killed while clinging onto that boat. Should Secretary Hegseth, Admiral Bradley, or others be punished?
I think you're going to find that this is war, that these people were killing our people by the millions, actually, if you look over a few years. I think last year we lost close to 300,000 people were killed. That's not mentioning all the families. Have you seen what happens with the families of not only the people killed, the people that are trying to get their son or their daughter off of this poison that they've been fed? I think you're going to find that there's a very receptive ear to doing exactly what they're doing, taking out those boats. And very soon we're going to start doing it on land, too, because we know every route, we know every house, we know where they manufacture this crap, we know where they put it all together. And I think you're going to see it very soon on land also. Yeah, please.
Okay, so that last point of him confirming that there might be airstrikes on land. So what does the law says? I'll read it to you verbatim. The United States president has historically authorized airstrikes on foreign land without prior congressional approval, relying on Article 2 of the U.S. Constitution, which designates the president as commander-in-chief of the armed forces and grants authority to respond to imminent threats or conduct limited military operations short of full-scale war. However, this power is not unlimited and remains a subject of ongoing legal and political debate, as Article 1 gives Congress the sole authority to declare war and fund military action. So that's why, obviously, when he uses the word war, Congress is going to take that word literally, meaning Democrats will, and start accusing the president of waging war without congressional approval, which is not happening at this point in time.
You released video of that first boat strike on September 2nd, but not the second video. Will you release video of that strike so that the American people can see for themselves what happened?
I don't know what they have, but whatever they have, we'd certainly release. No problem. You know, we stopped every boat we knock out. We save 25,000 American lives.
That's right. That's right.
And if you look at our numbers, the drugs coming in through sea are down 91%. I'm surprised there's 9%. You want to? I don't know who's doing the 9%, but it's down 91, and we're going to start very soon on land, and I'm sure you're thrilled to hear that.
Well, not everybody's going to be thrilled to hear that. I'll tell you that right now, and I'm going to show you someone who's already pushing back on that. But let me continue to read the War Powers Resolution of 1973, which requires the president to notify Congress within 48 hours of committing forces to hostilities and limit such actions to 60 days plus a 30-day withdrawal period without explicit congressional authorization or declaration of war. In practice, presidents from both parties in history have interpreted their authority broadly for targeting airstrikes, often justifying them as defensive measures or responses to terrorism without seeking advance approval. Meaning, if he's not going to put boots on ground, pretty much he has a broad authority to continue to execute airstrikes. And he's not the only person to do it. I know you know of someone called Barack Hussein Obama, right? The deporter-in-chief, the bomber-in-chief, technically, responsible for 7 American citizens dead because of those strikes. But hey, you know, because it's Donald Trump, everybody's going to lose their mind over it, right? So let's hear that opposing opinion now. Take a look.
And all that surrounds that, Paul, your thoughts on the threat of land strikes in Venezuela?
I think this is the most important story in America. It's the most important story in the world because Trump continues to move forward with the most powerful military the world has ever seen without any consultation or approval from Congress. I mean, if you liked Afghanistan and you liked Iraq, this will be more of the same. We haven't obviously had a formal declaration of war since World War II, but that's not how it's supposed to go. If he strikes on land in Venezuela, the Venezuelans will consider it war, the world will consider it war, and I think most Americans will consider it war. And so far, Trump has been all gas and no brakes. And this is coming to a very important loggerheads, while at the same time, his Secretary of Defense is under tremendous scrutiny. The Signalgate report is out. There are allegations of war crimes, and a lot of people, frankly, don't have any confidence in the Secretary of Defense. So not a great idea to go to war without Congress behind you, and definitely not a great idea to do it when your Secretary of Defense is under so much controversy.
Let's just understand who that guy is and his opinion and where it's coming from. This is a guy who owns a company called American Veterans for Ukraine. I think that kind of tells you his thought process, his ideology, and the way that he sees the world. So I wouldn't be looking for him as far as advice regarding military airstrikes, particularly against the country of Venezuela and their dictator, by the way, Maduro, who refuses to leave office. Now, as long as the president does not put boots on ground, I'm all in support of it. But I still don't think he's going all the way with it. Again, he needs to target legitimate cartels, okay? All of them, not just one of them, all of them, okay? Not just Venezuela, all of them. Can I say it again? Okay. If we're going to go down this road, just let it loose already.
Let me be clear. If Trump were to order an attack on land, that would be an act of war, and Congress would invoke the War Powers Act. It's Congress's prerogative to go to war, and I hope Republicans will defend that role.
All right, so I think you guys see where Chuck Schumer is going with all of this. Again, this is a coordinated effort to truly undermine Pete Hegseth as the Secretary of War. They never liked him, never will like him, never will accept him. It's interesting that these are the same people. Some of them actually confirmed him, and there's nothing that they're going to be able to do about it. So what do? They start making up stories. They accuse him of committing war crimes, all right? It's just been this targeted attack. And now you continue to see Democrats, senators, might I add you, like Mark Warner, who's coming out and still encouraging members of the military to defy orders. Take a look.
Unprecedented disrespect when they were all brought to get a pep rally in front of Hegseth and Trump. This is an administration that's fired, uniform generals from the head of the NSA, the head of the Defense Intelligence Agency. And I think in many ways, the uniformed military may help save us from this president and his lame people like Hegseth, because I think their commitment is to the Constitution and obviously not to Trump, and I expect Bradley to adhere to that.
I mean, clearly there's so much going on in our country, and that's why I have to deliver this urgent reminder. The Medicare enrollment period is ending soon. This means you have until December 7th to pick a plan for 2026. It's no secret that Medicare enrollment process is confusing, and I think it's on purpose because brokers are looking to make more money, which means you could potentially be on the wrong plan. Question, wouldn't it make sense to speak to a trusted advisor today? That's why I recommend you call Chapter. They're the only advisors that will compare every nationwide plan to make sure that you choose the right one. And they are results driven. They save people $1,100 a year. If you look in the comments section, you'll see that people are already thanking me for directing them to Chapter. They will help you. And the best part is their service is completely free and it only takes 20 minutes. And by the way, if you're already on a Medicare plan, they can look at it and make sure that it's good. And if it's not, they'll help you switch. So don't gamble with your Medicare coverage today. Call Chapter at 323-431-5200. Understand it's peak season, so you're going to want to call them first thing in the morning. That number again is 323-431-5200. Speak to a trusted advisor today. I find it fascinating that members of Congress still today are focused on the wrong things. And I would argue it's happening on both sides of the aisle, just to be objectively fair here. But especially Democrats, they're now obsessed with war crimes, as they call it, and not affordability. I thought affordability was a huge problem. I thought ACA subsidies was a huge problem. People are going to die. Remember? Oh, that's right. These are just talking points. These are just the next thing they want to be obsessed with to continue to try to persuade public opinion and undermine the president of the United States. That's exactly what's going on here. They truly don't care about war crimes. They truly don't care about Venezuela. They truly don't care about all that, but they're going to be obsessed with it and talk about it because they see that as a weakness. I'm not too sure I agree with that. Now, here's what Hakeem Jeffries had to say about Pete Hegseth. Take a listen.
Joining us now to discuss this and more, the House Democratic leader, Hakeem Jeffries of New York. Leader Jeffries, thanks so much for joining us. First of all, what's your response to what we heard there from President Trump and Defense Secretary Hegseth about that boat strike?
Well, there's a lot of explaining that the White House needs to do. Listen, at the end of the day, the buck stops with the president and the so-called Secretary of Defense. And it's not clear to me that the so-called Secretary of Defense is being truthful in this instance. And so that's why there's going to be a complete and thorough bipartisan congressional investigation in both the House and the Senate so we can uncover the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. That's what the American people deserve.
Why do you call him so-called Defense Secretary?
This is the most unqualified Secretary of Defense in American history. I called for him to be terminated several months ago in the aftermath of the Signalgate scandal. And there's still some additional information, and I think will be revealed to the American people as to why that was so problematic.
Now, did you hear his excuse? That is insufficient. I would argue that him calling him a so-called Secretary of Defense is just as egregious as all the other things they accused the president of saying about the Somalia community. I mean, it's interesting how they like to dish it out, but they can't receive it back. Okay. You know, if you're going to address President Trump, that's what you call him, President Trump, not so-called President Trump, not so-called Secretary of Defense. It's not even Secretary of Defense, it's Secretary of War, just to be clear. Again, these people like to throw out norms because they justify the behavior because they blame it on Trump. And then they get mad at him when he doesn't follow the norms. I mean, again, you know, it's just this pure hypocrisy that continues to take place. All right. Now, staying on the president, he also had more comments about Ilhan Omar. We might as well get to it because there was a lot of reaction to it. Listen to this.
They have a representative, Ilhan Omar, who they say married her brother. It's a fraud. She tries to deny it now, but you can't really deny it because, you know, it just happened. She shouldn't be allowed to be a congresswoman, and I'm sure people are looking at that. And she should be thrown the hell out of our country. And most of those people, they have destroyed Minnesota, okay? Minnesota, you have an incompetent governor. You have a crooked governor. He's crooked as hell, but he's incompetent. Waltz he should be ashamed. That beautiful land, that beautiful state.
Now, as a quick reminder, if you guys have been enjoying this video, you feel like you've been getting value, the best way to support us is by liking this video, sharing this video, leave a comment below, and subscribe. Now, the interesting thing about the comments from the president, he's saying exactly what people are thinking, but not a lot of people will say this out loud, okay? We all understand why that is. He can get away with it, others cannot. But what he's saying has some truth to it. I mean, when you allow $1 billion of fraud to take place within your state and you're surprised when it's finally exposed, that says you have not really been paying attention with what's happening inside your own home. That's the first thing. Secondly, a lot of it is coming out of the Somalia community. So, of course, the president's going to call them out. And instead of them being mad at the president, they should be mad at their own community. They should be policing their own community, holding each other accountable because of this fraud. And we're not talking about pennies here. We're talking about billions of dollars. But hey, why don't we go to this Minneapolis City Council member, Jamal Osman. Here's what he had to say. Take a listen.
And yes, folks have done, horrible things, and people have committed crimes, but we should not be pointing the entire community in one brush and being singled out as fellow Americans. There's a justice, there's a process of due process, and I believe those folks have been dealt with by the state leaders. And but now President Donald Trump singling out and attacking one group of people, and ICE being on our streets and asking people documentation. It feels like we are in 1930s, 1940s in Germany. Never thought there would be a time where I will tell my community to carry their passport around because you look like Somali. You might be stopped by ICE.
I actually don't have a problem with people carrying around their passport to prove they are citizens of this country or at a minimum, they're allowed to be in this country. So that's the first thing. I actually don't have a problem with it. We have to carry ID in general. As an American citizen, I could get pulled over by a police officer anytime, and he may make up the reason on why he pulled me out, but I still need to provide identification. So I have no issue with that. Secondly, in regards to 1930 in Germany, this guy never even lived in 1930 in Germany, so he has no idea what he's saying. And if this was 1930 Germany, guy, you wouldn't even be on the TV. You wouldn't even be conducting an interview. And by the way, you'd be in the ground by now. So, you know, when they make these comments, right, it's very inflammatory. It's partisan. It's hyperbole. There's not a lot of truth in it. It's pure emotion. Let's just focus on the merits of the case. A lot of fraud has happened in the state of Minnesota. It needs to be dealt with. You guys deserve the backlash. You should have been holding each other accountable. You failed to do so. So take it for what it is. Now, here's more what the president had to say.
Go back to your own country and figure out your constitution. All she does is complain about this country. Without this country, she would not be in very good shape. She probably wouldn't be alive right now. So Somalia is considered by many to be the worst country on earth. I don't know. I haven't been there. I won't be there anytime soon, I hope. But what Somalia, what the Somalian people have done to Minnesota is not even believable. It's not even believable. And a lot of it starts with the governor. A lot of it starts with Barack Hussein Obama, because that's when people started coming in. And you have to have people come in that are going to love our country, cherish our country. They want to kiss our country goodnight. They talk about our country. We want them to pray for our country. This is not the people living in Minnesota. And she's a disaster. She should not be, and her friends shouldn't be allowed. Frankly, they shouldn't even be allowed to be Congress people.
Now let's go to this congressional hearing on Capitol Hill today, which was all about the violence against law enforcement officials, whether it's local police department, ICE officers, Border Patrol agents, the whole thing. The astounding number to me is it's up 1,100%, and it's a record high if you're factoring in over the past 10 years. Let's start with this clip first.
Calling officers Nazis and Gestapo, it better stop right now. You are inflaming dangerous circumstances.
There have been 620 officers shot in 483 separate ambush attacks, killing 135 officers. These are not selective numbers. They are real, verified incidents. These numbers have no bias. They have no agenda. They are just real.
The shocking rise of attacks on police and federal agents under the microscope during a House hearing today as lawmakers look to see if political rhetoric is fueling the flames of violence. Our chief congressional correspondent, Chad Pergram, watching it all from his perch on Capitol Hill. Chad?
John, good afternoon. Law enforcement officers believe they're a target in a volatile political environment. Attacks on law enforcement are escalating. The FBI says there were 85,000 assaults on officers last year. That's the highest figure in a decade.
Ambush attacks continue to climb. ICE officers alone have seen assaults increase more than 1,100% this year. These are staggering numbers that reflect the very real dangers officers face simply for carrying out the laws that Congress has enacted.
All right, so what are we talking about in this first story? It's the number of assaults against law enforcement officers. The official number is right here on the screen, 85,730 in the year of 2024. So Congress today has hosted a congressional hearing to discuss what is leading to that. Me and you both know what is leading to that. A lack of accountability, a lack of enforcing the law when people want to get out of hand, when they turn violent, when they put their hands on officers, when they're firebombing Teslas and anything else of that nature. Are they truly being convicted in the end? The answer has actually been no. A lot of people just this year alone regarding ICE officers, they've been released back onto the streets after throwing rocks, after getting violent with them. Isn't that interesting? So the cure to all of this is accountability. And because Democrats are immune to that or allergic to that word, what do? They're introducing a bill today to crack down on how ICE are detaining illegal aliens. Listen to this.
We are here today to say enough. Our Dignity for Detained Immigrants Act has a remarkable, unprecedented 123 original co-sponsors. Before we've even introduced it, 123 co-sponsors, and it overhauls the detention system. It drastically scales back the use of detention. It ensures that every single immigrant who is in detention has their human and civil rights protected. Our bill also phases out the use of private for-profit detention centers. It prohibits the detention of children and families and makes it harder to detain primary caregivers and vulnerable people like pregnant women or seniors or workers who are whistleblowing on unscrupulous employers. It requires DHS to allow members of Congress to do our jobs and conduct those unannounced inspections that hold these facilities accountable.
And so let me just give you the lay of the land. Democrats are going to continue to blame ICE officers. They're going to blame law enforcement, but ultimately they're going to blame President Trump. They will not take any responsibility regarding the rhetoric. They don't believe their rhetoric has led to assassination attempts, and especially a successful assassination this year on Charlie Kirk. They don't believe they have anything to do with it, as a matter of fact. They don't look at trans violence whatsoever. What they're going to do is continue to blame Republicans, ICE officers, and the president, as I stated. So, of course, we have to give you guys the full picture and show you exactly what the objective truth is. Now, before I get to that, let me show you an example of how far Democrats are going in this hearing blaming ICE officers. Take a look.
The American people's anger and tolerance of DHS violations of our rights, that's what's the result of DHS unlawful, unaccountable, unconstitutional actions, which put the American people and our liberties at risk every day. Let me be very clear. The Department of Homeland Security, you can quote me on that, is the single biggest threat to public safety right now.
Okay, let's just think about what she said. Homeland Security officers, particularly ICE officers, Border Patrol agents, are the biggest threat to safety in these streets. Now, me and you both know that's not true whatsoever. We could talk about gang violence. That's definitely a big threat. We could talk about the lack of enforcement regarding the law. That's definitely a problem. We could talk about how the judicial system refuses to lock up repeat offenders in a serious manner, but they let them right back onto the streets. We could talk about cashless bail. We could just talk about their refusal to honor ICE detainer requests. No, none of that is an actual threat to the safety of these neighborhoods. It's ICE officers.
Enforcement officers are required to wear badges. They show their faces and they identify themselves. But DHS agents, they use anonymity to terrorize our communities and to violate our rights. There are mechanisms for law enforcement officers to be held accountable by the public, investigated, and disciplined. And those mechanisms are in place for the safety of the officers and the American people. But DHS agents, they reject accountability, they disregard court orders, and they violate consent decrees. Bottom line, DHS agents lie. They act with impunity, they reject checks and balances, and they ignore Congress and the courts.
No, they don't ignore Congress or the courts. They're executing the law that Congress has passed. And if they don't want ICE officers going into neighborhoods and doing the things that they're doing, why don't they just pass a law banning them from doing what they're doing? You know why they won't? Because they're following the law that they pass. I mean, it's that ridiculous, folks. I keep saying this every single time. The more pushback that we hear against these mass deportations tells me that people don't understand what the laws are, and they are thinking and speaking with their emotions and not with logic. And again, as we say, if these sanctuary cities would honor ICE detainer requests, they wouldn't have to go into these neighborhoods.
What they are trying to do is point fingers so they can deflect blame. They want to convince the American people that Democratic rhetoric is the issue. It is not Democrats who are praising, let alone pardoning, people who stormed this very Capitol complex to beat police officers and hunt down elected officials. It is Donald Trump who pardoned more than 1,500 January 6 rioters. I hope we can all agree, as we keep saying out of our mouths here, that any form of violence is unacceptable.
Guys, we've heard that same talking point every single time, and I just have to repeat what the facts show, and that is Ashley Babbitt was the only person murdered, by the way, in cold blood on January 6th. And she was a person in the crowd. She was a protester, not a police officer. In fact, she was a military veteran, and her family did receive a settlement from the federal government. They never want to tell you that side of the story. They keep trying to make it sound like as if these protesters went into the Capitol, attacked police officers, and murdered them. That's not what happened, okay? Now, let's go to what the numbers actually are regarding the assaults against ICE officers. Take a look at this.
One of the main points of conversation during this hearing was about violence against ICE officers specifically. The Department of Homeland Security saying there's been a surge. According to their data, last year between January and November, there were 19 reported assaults on ICE, while during the same period this year, there were 238. DHS calls that more than an 1,100% increase.
And guys, the increase is due to non-compliance. People are not following lawful orders when they're being instructed to not approach ICE officers. They approach them anyway. When they're being instructed not to obstruct what ICE officials are doing, they obstruct anyway. So, I mean, that's really the bottom line here. Okay, let's see what you guys have to say in the comment section below to the stories in this video today, starting with this probe from congressional leaders regarding the violence against ICE officers, particularly law enforcement. We're talking about 1,100% increase. Who do you blame for all of that? What do you make of the president confirming potential land airstrikes in regards to the country of Venezuela? Do you support those airstrikes? And finally, what do you make of the president double downing on how he feels about Ilhan Omar and the Somalian community? Just give me all your thoughts and everything you got in the comment section below. Now we go to our next video, which is about Gavin Newsom and the continuous fatal mistakes that he has made that has led to tragic outcomes, like an 11-year-old boy suffering at the hands of a hit and run from an illegal alien who was deported 4 times, by the way. And you guys have to see the reaction from the governor himself. It's truly disgusting. You guys missed out on that story and more. All you have to do is click on that video because it's coming up right now.